Okay, in this lesson we're going to be talking about the first Americans. And he's asking, how did we get here? Alright, I hope I can help him answer that question by the end of this lesson. The first Americans. First of all, where did these first Americans come from? About 27,000 years ago, scientists believe that the first Americans came or arrived in North America. But how did they get here? Scientists are not really sure how these first people got here or why they came. We have different theories as to why they came here and how they got here. One of the most popular theories is that they came across Beringia or crossed a land bridge. Now, where is this located? Well, thousands of years ago, scientists believe that the first Americans came from Asia to North America by crossing the Bering Strait. Well, the Bering Strait is located, or the Bering Sea is located between Russia and Alaska. At one time, it is thought that the Earth was frozen, that most of the land was connected by ice and snow and glaciers. And so it's possible, if you look at the map of Russia and Alaska, they're across from each other. It's possible that this area right here was frozen. So, as these early people hunted and followed the woolly mammoth began to cross from Asia into what is now known as Alaska. Of course, these early people had no idea that they were in Russia. They had no idea that they were in Alaska. All they knew was we're following this woolly mammoth. Why did these people come here? Okay, early humans were hunters. The Paleo-Indians, the first native people in North America, hunted the woolly mammoth. The woolly mammoth were the main animals hunted by these people. These massive creatures migrated across the Bering Strait into North and South America. Alright, my friend is asking, where did these woolly mammoths go? Well, civilizations began to develop. Once these first people came to America, they followed the woolly mammoth, and as the woolly mammoth began to move into South America, things began to change for them. I like to have students think about, in the summertime, when it gets up close to 100 degrees, would you be wearing a snowsuit? Of course, the answer to that is no. We could not survive in that kind of environment. The woolly mammoth, scientists believe, were huge elephant-like creatures that had thick wool. And so as they began to move into the southern part of America, or what would later become known as America, and also down into South America, those environments are warmer. And so the woolly mammoth it's too hot for them, they can't survive. And so they begin to die. Well, for thousands of years, the Paleo-Indians hunted the woolly mammoth, but the mammoth began to die out, as I just explained to you. So what do they do once the woolly mammoth begins to die out? The Paleo-Indians have to figure out what to do now. Our main source of food has died, so we have to do something or we will not survive. So they become farmers. They learn how to plant. They learn how plants grow. They hunt other animals such as rabbit and deer and smaller animals. They learn that they can hunt those. But mostly they become farmers. The first farmers are believed to have lived in Mexico. Civilizations began to develop as people began to build villages and cities. Now, these early people were nomadic. That means that they moved around, so they never really built a house. They just stayed in one place, or as long as the woolly mammoth stayed, they stayed. But as the woolly mammoth dies off, these early people have to learn how to build houses now where they can stay. And if we're going to stay there, we need to have a good food supply. And so they begin to farm, and they begin to build cities and villages next to each other so that they can all survive. Okay, so hopefully I've answered that question for you. Where did the woolly mammoth go? Well, they died off. Okay. But who were these first Americans and where did they live? Okay, this is important for us. The first early Americans were called Moundbuilders. Adena, the Hopewell, the Mississippians, all of these were what's called mound builders. Now, mound builder means they did exactly as the name says. They built mounds. When their people in their community died, they built this huge mound, and they would begin to bury their dead in those mounds. Kind of like we do today with cemeteries. When a person dies, we put them in a cemetery. Okay? The Adena, the Hopewell, the Mississippians, they lasted about 2,500 years in what we now call the Ohio River Valley and Mississippi Valley. If you look at a map and you see Ohio, that section from Ohio down, that's called the Ohio River Valley. And the Mississippi Valley is where these guys were located. The Omlec lived in Mexico, Guatemala, Honduras, and Costa Rica. They built the first cities in the Americas. There are also scientists believe that the Omlec were the first to build an aqueduct. An aqueduct is a method of taking water from a long distance away and pumping it or sending it to the area where you need it. That's called an aqueduct. The Maya lived in Mexico and Central America. Now, the Mayans are well known because they are the ones that many believe created a writing system. Or they did create a writing system, and they used that to track their history so that they could remember where they came from and to learn more about themselves for future generations to learn about them. They were also very good at math. The Mayans had a calendar as well. They studied the stars, and they noticed the different patterns in the stars. They followed the movement of the stars. And so because of that, they were able to develop a calendar. The last group that we'll talk about is called the Aztec. The Aztec lived in central Mexico for about 200 years. Their capital city was Tenochtitlan. In Tenochtitlan, they had it was a city that had roads, buildings, and temples. Now we're going to learn more about the mound builders, which were the Adena, Hopewell Mississippians. We'll learn more about the Omlec, the Maya, and the Aztec in a future lesson. Thank you very much. Hope you enjoyed this lesson.